Hi guys. Hi guys. Thank you so much. My name is Ivan, and first of all, I would like to say big thanks that you are still here. I understand that it's a little bit challenging to follow two AI topics with topics that has Selenium in the title, but I will try to make it as interesting as I can. And I think it's last presentation. Let's ask who are you? A few questions, guys. Who are from QA area? Could you please raise your hands? Wow, nice, great. Uh, who are from AI, like data engineers, ML engineers? Only one. Hi, Igor. Who just came to eat, have fun, drink beer? Great, guys. To be honest, this question was for Sergey especially. I knew Sergey. Cool. And let's get started. So today I will tell you how we didn't rewrite Selenium test to Playwright. And first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Ivan Varivoda. I am over 8 years in QA automation. I joined Wrike in 2017. I started as QA automation engineer, and now I am QA automation tech lead, and I'm responsible for QA internal tools, infrastructure, and improving all this stuff. I love beach volleyball and riding motorbicycle here in Cyprus, especially in mountains. So it's awesome, beautiful. I can highly recommend it. But let's go to our topic. And first of all, I would like to understand, is it really nice trend? Who heard about this trend that everyone or most of engineers, they want to rewrite Selenium tests to new cool framework like Playwright? Who heard about this trend? Yes, yes, nice. Thank you, guys. I think it should be interesting for you. Uh, and quite important disclaimer that, in my opinion, Playwright is very nice and it solves most of key automation problems. And I used Playwright in my title of presentation just and a good example of new modern framework. I don't have anything against Playwright, but I feel bad about Selenium because quite often I hear that Selenium tests are slow, Selenium tests are unstable, Selenium is old by itself, and let's rewrite all our tests to a new cool framework, and it will solve all our problems. And I will discuss these topics today. And goal of this presentation is to look at issues of Selenium from different perspectives. We'll consider stability of Selenium tests, speed of Selenium tests, and also I will highlight some hidden benefits of having many Selenium tests. But first of all, let me quickly show you how key automation works at Wrike. It will be quickly. We use Java for our after tests. We use Maven to build our project. We have only one big repository with all tests, and it has multi-models structure. We have more than 200 models. And as I remember, we have more than 1.5 million code lines, so it's quite big framework, big project, more than 20 contributors, not only QA automation guys, also QA guys, also some developers help us to fix or develop some tests. As test framework, we use Joint 5. For UI tests, we use Selenium for sure. And HTML elements. This is not very popular framework, but we use it for 8 years. And it's a previous version of Atlas framework. I don't know, are you familiar with this framework? By the way, just check. Who knows Atlas or HTML elements? Okay, okay. It's more usages than on Maven Central downloaded for the last year, to be honest. I checked recently, it was 0. For API tests, we use Retrofit to build API client for our REST API of Wrike and AssertJ to make assertions for our API tests. A few words about the stagings. We have two types of stagings. First one is static staging. We call it RC test. I don't know why I put it here. Just name it, but I don't know. Let it be. And this is our outdated staging. So it's not very powerful. We don't use it anymore quite often. We have cleanup mechanism each weekend to clean all data which produce our tests. And our new cool modern approach from our DevOps guys, it's dynamic stagings. So it's a Google Cloud-based solution. They are independent. We use them to check manuals, to do manual checks. and also to run tests there. And we can, let's say, run up to 10 or 20 different independent stagings for different front-end branches, back-end branches, combination of these branches to check different features of our product. And they are very cool. DevOps guys, big thanks to you. A few updates about test count. We have many tests, more than 20,000 of API tests and 40,000 of Selenium tests. You can ask me about test pyramid, right? Because we have our own test pyramid, we love it. And recently, Alex Shurov, I know where he, so he had a presentation in Limassol about Wrike style test pyramid. And if you have any questions about this approach, you can ask him or our QA automation guys here on this meetup, and we will describe you why. So we have 10,000 real integration tests, which check our application and use like real test case scenarios, user test case scenarios. And also we have around 20,000 tests for independent applications, because our Wrike consists of, let's say, micro front ends, you can call them. We call them independent applications, and each independent application has its own demo page where we can test this application in isolation. We don't mock backend. We use, let's say, full integration tests with backend, but on web page, there is only one independent application. And 10,000 tests for UI kit, because we have UI kit, and we use also Selenium tests. Don't ask me why we don't use unit tests for front end. It's a long story. We can discuss it after this presentation. And just a reminder, so each of this application from Wrike, they are independent and they have its own demo pages. Let's go to the topic of this presentation. And first, our statement that Selenium tests are unstable. Again, question to you, who agree with that? Really? Maybe others just don't use Selenium, okay? Okay, in my opinion, Selenium tests are not stable. It's better to use right naming, like UI integration tests are not stable, and it doesn't depend on framework. And what is stability of tests? In our opinion, it's primarily a function of the test environment. And the main question, how you adapt and set up your tests for your special test environment. This is the most challenging thing, and I think, yeah, the most important one in QA automation. How we can control test stability? The most popular approach, and I guess each QA automation presentation about test stability has this slide, like use write waits, use explicit waits, don't use thread sleep 3000. So we are not going to talk about this. In my opinion, sometimes, to be honest, it's okay to use thread sleep for 500 milliseconds, but it's another story. We can discuss it after this presentation. And next point, how we control the stability, may be quite interesting. Daniil showed the slide, and there was an example of XWiki article, how stabilize tests. And we have kind of our approach, how we develop stable tests. Not all of us, but we try to make it quite popular. So how it works? We have Selenium farm, our own Selenium farm. We have independent stagings. And when we develop tests, for example, we develop one test, we have to run this test 100 times in parallel. So it usually takes 1 minute. And if success rate is 100%, we can proceed. We can review this test, merge it to master. If it's not 100%, we have to investigate the problems of this test. And in such case, we can find quite on early stage, let's say, problems with our after test. How can we control tests? So what options we have? We can check loading of staging environment, because if you use parallel execution, you have to find your appropriate and right thread count for your test builds. For our case, recently we found, let's say, our values. So with 200 threads per one staging, per one test build. And we know this number, and this number gives us opportunity to understand that tests are stable if we use 200 threads. Also, you can have multiple test builds running simultaneously. And you also need to think about, let's say, general count of threads that are going and are running on special staging. And it's also quite a difficult task if you have only one staging and you need to control them, you need to think about it. And last way, it's monitoring for test stagings. I am sure that in all companies there is a monitoring of real stagings, I mean product stagings, but also we use some monitoring for test stagings. We have stagings health checks and charts plus alerts. Let me quickly show you how it works. So for our static staging, we have, let's say, smoke test suite, a few REST tests, and if and these REST tests, as I remember, runs each 1 hour, and if they are failed, we get notification about some critical problems on our test staging, and after that, we have to understand what is going on and try to fix the staging to make our test again stable. Also, we calculate a lot of data about our after tests, and on this chart, you can see count of tests which failed because of infrastructure problems by days. And on this chart, you can see that usually each day we have around 15,000 failed tests because of infrastructure. It's not a lot because each day we run approximately 500,000 tests, and it's fine comparing to this number. But also we have, let's say, monitoring on this chart, and if this number is very high, if it's increasing, we can react on that when we can understand that with our infrastructure, something wrong, and we can ask our DevOps guys, and they will help us. Summary of stability. So probably, in my opinion, it's the most challenging aspect in key automation. And in my opinion, it depends on test configuration rather than framework, and we don't have to mention framework here. Our approach at Wrike is using test quarantine. So I haven't covered it, but you can find information about test quarantine in our Wrike Tech Club. So quite quickly, we mute quite fast unstable tests, and they are not running on our main builds. Also, we have test infrastructure monitoring, and we validate our tests for stability when we develop them. So we finished with, and more details you can find on our Wrike Tech Club. Next point, that Selenium is slow. We agree? Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. 3 people. Okay. We agree with that. And let's quickly look at test durations at Wrike. We have Selenium tests, remember, integration tests. For average, we have 19 seconds. For median, we have 18 seconds for all our UI tests, and for 80th percentile, 21 seconds. So it's approximately 20 seconds per one UI integration test. And in my opinion, it's very long. It's very long for one UI test for sure. And why our tests are long? So what slows them down? The first reason is test generation. So our tests, they are independent and they generate test data by itself. And we do that to be able to run our tests in parallel, independently, and use 200 threads. And this is, let's say, value that we pay. We use REST API to generate entities for tests for each test, and we spend some time for this activity. Also, a quite obvious point, but anyway, we are waiting for backend actions like asynchronous operations or just rendering of front end after some backend operations. And also, it takes some time to wait, and our tests are quite long because of that. For our case, it makes sense to mention that we use our custom Selenium farm. It's cool, and we have, it's an open source. You can use it and find it in Wrike Tech Club. It allows us to run many tests every day. And we spend, in worst case, up to 3 or 5 seconds to get WebDriver. So this is, again, we have to waste some time for that. And last point, why our tests are slow. We have in some cases many actions in one test, quite obvious. That is why we try to make our tests atomic, very small, compact, and they, I would say, I wanted to say fast, but 20 seconds, no, they are not so fast. But my question here, is it a problem at all? Okay, 20 seconds per one test. We have, as I mentioned, 150 threads, up to 200 threads for one build. And in such case, we spend less than 1 second per one test, around 0.7 seconds. And entire our UI test suite takes under 2 hours to finish. And also we have opportunity to make some parallel runs. We have a few independent stagings, and we can decrease this duration to 50 minutes. And this is how we run all tests each day, every day on morning deploy. And after 1 hour, we can get all results about healthy of our product, of new increment of our product. And also it's quite fast. And of course, we don't run all our tests always, right? We have test suites, and each test suite is about 1,000 tests, and such builds takes approximately 10 minutes to finish. So in this example, we can see TeamCity build. So it had 1.4K tests and approximately 9 minutes. So it's fine for us. You can just go prepare your coffee or tea, came back, and tests are green. Not always, to be honest. Can this be improved by changing the framework? Again, it's our main question. In my opinion, to some extent, yes, but I don't believe in 2 times, let's say, benefits, 2 times improvements. And it's quite important to remember that we can always scale our test infrastructure. For us, 10 minutes for 80% of test build is fine. But if we need more, we can just add threads, add more resources into our stagings, and our test will take, I don't know, 5 minutes. I think so. Summary about these 2 statements. So stability is not about framework. Test duration is not a problem. And it's quite important to understand, in my opinion, it's better to go to right test staging direction rather than rewriting all your tests to new cool framework to have, let's say, high speed of your tests. Selenium is not as bad as it might seem because we use it for 8 years and we don't have many problems with that. And also you have always assessed necessity before migration to new framework. And a few valid reasons from my side, from my opinion, to switch your framework. Maybe there is only one. When you have, it's not only about Playwright. When you have big architectural problems and if you want to add one feature, you have to refactor and make big refactoring of your previous features, already existed features, and it's causing more issues than benefits, especially when, for example, your team has different language. For example, your front-end developers want to write tests. Let's imagine that. And in such case, you can use TypeScript, for example, with Playwright, and they will help you to develop tests. And for sure, it's cost-effective to rewrite from scratch, because in our case, we have 40,000 tests. I even cannot imagine how we can do that, even step by step. And maybe the most important thing, why should we do that? And last part, it's benefits of having many Selenium tests. I said that we don't have many unit UI tests, but many Selenium. So some benefits. We have one repository, it's quite important, and we can easily maintain our web test project. So really, if we have to change some dependency, it will be only one merge request. If we want to make big refactoring, for example, from June 4 to June 5, we had it maybe 4 years ago. It's quite easy because we use IntelliJ IDEA plugins with PSI framework to make some refactoring of our code. And we need to run this stuff only for one web test project, big project. Also, we have unified test guidelines, and all our tests, they are very similar to each other. And because they use the same page objects, they use the same steps, they use the same test utils. And if you want to understand what is going on inside another scope, in other team, you can easily understand because you know the structure, you know notations, you know common guidelines, so it's not a big deal at all. But imagine if you have, I don't know, 50 different repositories and each team is developing tests in a little bit different way. Of course, you have common guidelines, but do you really believe that everyone will look at them, let's say? And in our case, we have PMD, we have pipelines, we have check styles, and we are sure that our tests are very similar. And also quite important improvement, we have all tests in one place. And if our, let's say, backend guys, they are preparing big changes of some core parts of our backend, we can quickly run all our tests and give them, let's say, answer, is it fine or not? So it's usually 1 hour, and that is why they are not afraid, let's say, making big changes, because they know that we have big regression. It won't take 1 night, 2 days. It will take only 1 hour or 2 hours, and they can make difficult, big changes of core parts. And our framework is a foundation for solving different QA quality assurance tasks. I just will provide 2 examples and we'll finish. So first example, it's about accessibility. Some time ago, we got a task. We had to collect all accessibility problems for our product. And of course, we used TaskScore library because it's the most popular thing. But the main question, how we can collect all problems from our UI, because we have quite rich UI, many places of Wrike, many UI components, many UI views, etc. And we have our integration tests, and we use them to like drivers to access and reach all UI parts of our application to get different states of our UI. We added X collector of issues into one util class, as I remember, because we have all tests and one repository, you remember. And after that, just ran them and collected all problems and uploaded them to BigQuery, analyze after that, but it's another story. But the main thing here is that it was possible because all tests in one place, they are the same tools, etc. We can run them quite quickly. Second and last example, it's testing of themes. So in Wrike, we have many themes. As I remember, approximately 20 themes plus 2 mods, light and dark. And we have design token system. And if you change one token of this design system, it can affect changes, it can affect different themes in different mods. And we have to validate that and check. As you know, we have many UI components and views, and it's nice news that all screenshot tests are inside one place, inside one project, and we can use these tests to validate all themes. So we just created a tool and use our screenshot tests. We navigated through all themes and make screenshots before changes, after changes, and create final HTML report for each theme, how it was before, how it was after. And after, let's say, 3 hours, we can understand, is it fine, changes, I mean, in design token system for all themes or not. So again, it's possible because all screenshot tests are in one place. They are not spread across different repositories. And I finished. Thank you for your attention.